booktube, so I wanted to check in on how my reading is going so far this year. I've had so much fun watching everyone's videos, whether it's like a check-in or the mid-year freakout tag, and I know it's a little bit past the middle of the year, but it's only a little bit past, and better late than never, because I know there's been several years while I've been on booktube where I haven't done the mid-year check-in. Although I feel like I should have, because it's a good way to not just check in with you on how I'm doing, but myself as well. I like to have like a, I don't know, like something to work on for the next 6 months of the year. So that being said, the first question is, how is your reading going so far this year? And I have read, as far as numbers go, a total of 180 books as of right now on Sunday. I'm filming this early because I'm going to post it on Tuesday for Tag Tuesday. And so yeah, I'm very happy with that number. Of course, I could read more, I could read less. But yeah, when I was like scrolling through all of the books, I will say though, to do this tag, it would have been nice to have like had a spreadsheet to go off of. And I used to do spreadsheets many years ago. I got away from it because I kept putting it off and then having to like sit down for an hour to record everything I read. And the other thing is I never went back to it outside of a video like this or like a year end. So that being said, this tag was a little bit difficult for me to do because I was like, I just have like the Goodreads, like the list, and then I have it written down as well in a notebook, but that's even less helpful. So yes, it was a lot for me to scroll through the 180 to compile my answers for this tag, but yeah, well worth it for sure. So number 2 is best book you've read so far this year. And it's a book I've mentioned many times, I feel like, because it was like the book that took me the longest to read. And that is The Fitzgeralds and the Kennedys, an American Saga by Doris Kearns Goodwin. I picked this up for March of the Mammoths. And this is a whopping total of, let's see, how many pages? It's like 900 and something pages. So it for sure qualifies as a mammoth over 800. Yeah, 932 if you include the index and all of that. But yeah, this took me a while because at first I was just dabbling a little bit in it. But then last month in June, I just sat down and committed myself to solely focusing on this book. And yeah, well worth it. This follows the president, JFK, his family, through the generations, going back to the generation that migrated from Ireland to the U.S. in Massachusetts, and setting up their family, and like how they were able to just boom in wealth, and just like the connectedness and like the close-knit family that John F. Kennedy grew up in was remarkable. Like all the people, like all his siblings and everyone, they were just completely remarkable, standout people. Each of them, warrant their own biography. And I know they probably all do have their own biography. Yeah, this was just a fantastic read. Let's see, best sequel. And for that, I've read several series, ongoing series, and I chose The Dry Divide by Ralph Moody. And this is book 7, and I think the series is called Little Britches. I've been reading this series for a couple of years now, I want to say. And this follows Ralph, who, when the series opens up, he and his family are moving to Colorado in the Denver area before Denver was anyway a city. It was like a little town, and they moved out west because his father was suffering from tuberculosis. And so, like many people back then, they wanted to move west for the better air, cleaner air. And so, yeah, he moved there with his family. And so, but then this story in particular, he is in Nebraska. He's on his way back to the West and this is during the Great Depression, and there's no money, no jobs, that kind of thing. And he is suffering from diabetes, and so he is sick as well. So he gets stuck in Nebraska. But while he's there, he's able to pull these people together in the town and put together like a farming community to earn some money and help not just himself but the people in the town as well. So yeah, I really like this series. It's a nonfiction, historical, like memoir, autobiography kind of series. And it's something unique, I think, and yeah, well worth the time to put into it. Yeah, I only have one book left. I'm like holding off. I haven't read it yet, but yeah, it's for sure one I'm going to be reading later on this year. A favorite reread. And I chose The Killer Angels by Michael Shara. I read this back in January, and this is only my second time reading this book, and this is about a historical adaptation of the Gettysburg Battle in the Civil War. And you follow all like the main generals and some of the other people as well. And I feel like I'm there reading this book. I feel like this is the best book on the Gettysburg Battle, I would say. I've only read one other book solely on the Gettysburg Battle, but it's always in all the different Civil War books I've read. But yeah, I highly recommend this if you want to learn more about the Civil War or Gettysburg. This is a fantastic book. Okay, genre you've been loving reading the most. And as I was flipping back and forth through the Goodreads, I noticed I feel like it's a toss-up between middle grade books and mysteries. And again, I feel like that speaks to what I was saying a bit ago about how or maybe I don't know if I can't remember because I filmed a couple videos today, but yeah, I had a rough June and May wasn't the best either. So I feel like reading middle grade and mystery are like my go-to for comfort, easy reading. And yeah, so I read many of those. I didn't count how many because again, I don't have a spreadsheet to like easily tally those things up. But of the 180, I would say I don't even know, probably 80, at least 80 is middle grade and mystery. So yeah, but I'm not knocking it because I really do like those genres. And, yeah, obviously, if they're the top two I can think of, yes. New release you haven't read yet but want to. And speaking of mysteries and like thrillers, Pitch Dark by Paul Dorian. This just came out, I want to say, just a week or two ago. And this is the Mike Bowditch series, following a game warden in Maine. And I love thrillers that are like kind of like nature-based in a way because as part of his job, he's out in like the wilds of Maine most of the time. And so often with this series, Paul Dorian, or yeah, however you say that author's name, the main character is constantly going all over Maine. So like one story will be on an island and they'll be like the north or like these different spots. So I feel like in a way it gives me a sense of like touring through Maine, if you will, but like fast paced, like bad guys are after me, which I hope if I ever go to Maine that's not gonna be the case for me. But yeah, highly enjoy this series. Okay, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And for that, I have The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Hearst by Katie Lumsden. And this is the only book in years. And I mean, it's been at least 5-10 years since I've pre-ordered anything. This is the first book I've pre-ordered in at least 10 years. Because the reason I pre-ordered it is because it's not being released in the United States. But also to support Katie Lumsden, who is a booktuber here, and she is like the founder of Booktober, and she loves like Charles Dickens and classics, and she's a host for Jane Austen July right now. And so yeah, I can get a better view of the cover, and I really like the cover. And so this is coming out in a couple of weeks in the UK, and she mentioned how she's not sure if and when it will be published in the United States. And so I read her previous book and really liked it, and so I wanted to pre-order, and so I'll have this coming to the mail to me soon. And not only did I pre-order this book, I almost never buy new books either. So yeah, but supporting fellow booktubers I think is well worth the money. And yeah, and that being said though, yeah, I am looking forward to the book for sure. I like reading classics as well, and I feel like I'm in a mood right now with reading all of Jane Austen's books for Jane Austen July. So yeah, it'll fit right in with that. Okay, let's see. The next book is Biggest Disappointment, and Mary Kay Andrews' Irish Eyes. I am slowly making my way through reading all of Mary Kay Andrews' books. I really like reading a book or two of hers over the summer because right now, she's known for her beach reads. But this series, it's the it doesn't say the series name, but it's something. It's like the Kathy Hogan Trocek is her original author name that she published under, but it's like the something Garrity cleaning series mystery, something like that. I can't remember, but this is the last book in that series. And the reason this is the biggest disappointment is because it leaves you on a complete cliffhanger. It's following an ex-cop in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and she is now a cleaning lady and a private investigator. But it leaves a cliffhanger because you're following her and her love interest throughout all of the books, and this is, I think, book 7, 8 or 9, something like that, and that's it. There's no more, and it leaves you with them possibly being broken up and in a fight, and that's it. That's the end of the book, and it was so disappointing. And I guess Mary Kay Andrews became really popular with her beach reads, and like went a completely different direction than this mystery, kind of like a gritty mystery series. That's not what she writes right now. She's like the Southern beach read. And so she's never gone back to finish this series, and I didn't know that when I picked this book up. So yeah, highly disappointing as an end to the series, although I really did like reading these books, as I like reading all of Mary Kay Andrews' stories. Okay, biggest surprise, and for that, it's The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. I have liked all of Brandon Sanderson's works, but this is part of his secret project books that he wrote during COVID, when he wasn't on doing all these tours out and about. He was at home, so he wrote even more books than he normally does. And the reason this is the biggest surprise is because the only other book I got all 4 of his secret project books, and the other one I tried reading, Tress of the Emerald Sea. I had not been able to click with that book at all. Like the humor of it completely threw me off, and so I tried reading it multiple times. I still haven't read it, and so I went on. The reason it's the biggest surprise is because I went in this book completely blind. I knew nothing about any of it. Same with the other 2 books I have of his to read from the secret project. But yeah, it's a really pretty book. But it's just because I went in blind, I think, is why it was the biggest surprise. But yeah, I want to go into too much detail on this book. But this is part of his Stormlight Archive series, and you're on a different planet, kind of like a Mars world in a way. It feels like, because it's fiery and the sun's out to get you, and you're constantly you're on the run. Like the cities and everything, you're on the run to escape the sun. Okay, so let's see. Favorite debut or new to you author, and that would be John Bellairs, and this is the book 1 in the Louis Barnevelt series, The House with a Clock in Its Wall. I am reading all of John Bellairs' work, not just the Louis Barnevelt series, with Angie over at Angie and the Great World. She invited me to co-host like a I guess you could call it a readathon or read along of the series. And yes, this for sure is a standout. When I read that question, I knew immediately who I was going to pick, because it's been so much fun to go through this middle grade series. It's very cozy, but has like sci-fi and like fantasy elements, and and like the setting, because the author himself grew up in the town that he based his fictional town on. And it's like the older, I think these came out in the 50s, so yeah, I feel like it's taking place in like the 1930s or so, or 40s. But yeah, I really like the mood and tone of these books, and all the more fun to discuss it with fellow booktubers. Okay, newest favorite character, and so let me see here. I'm going into the book. Okay, so for character, I mean, they all like blur in my head in a way, because I can never remember a character's name. So I'm just gonna go. Most time with characters, I like all of them. Most of the time, I can easily fall along with any main character. So I am going with the most recent main character that I read, and that is Jeremiah from Soar by Joan Bauer, and it is a very heartfelt story about Jeremiah, who is moving to a new town and is dealing with a heart transplant. So he has lots of medical issues and trying to make friends, but also trying to set up this baseball team. And so it's so heartwarming, the story is. And so I'm like rooting for Jeremiah through the entire book, but also he has so many good messages to send to his baseball team and to us as readers. Okay, so book that made you cry. So I don't cry hardly ever with books, and so I'm just interpreting this question as book that made me sad, and that is, going back to books here, is by Anne M. Martin, A Corner of the Universe, and this is part of the Newbery Honor books, and so I'm trying to read all of the Newbery Honor and Winter books. And this one made me sad just because the ending is what stuck out to me. I didn't even reread the synopsis before like sharing this book with you, but yeah, there's lots of happy moments, but this also I feel like it could be a surprise book because like before reading this story by Anna Martin, I had only read her Babysitter's Club book, and so this had I know that the Babysitter's Club books can have lots of dark elements in a way, like people can die, elderly people, or people can get sick and or break your bone, break a leg, things like that can happen. But yeah, this was just, it was so heartfelt, and just the ending, it touched me. Yeah, and I didn't cry, but yeah. Okay, so then book that made me happy, and this is like a fun, lighthearted series. It's what's the series name? A Misfortune Mystery by Jana De Leon, and this is Swamp Sniper, and this is following her name is Fortune, and she gets placed in the middle of nowhere, like the bayous of Louisiana, because like these bad like snipers are after her, and so she works for like the high like FBI or CIA, I can't remember which one. So she has all these skills, but now she's placed where she is supposed to be a librarian and like a pageant queen, that kind of thing. And so it's just a funny, lighthearted series to follow. I've just read like book 3, so this is like a long ongoing series, I'm pretty sure, so I have lots of reading to get to. But just to cover all of it, it's just delightful. And any book set in Louisiana, like I'm here for. Okay, most beautiful book that you've bought so far this year, and I didn't grab it before I made this video. Here we go. Let's see. And I also rearranged my bookshelf, so I'm sitting there trying to find it. Let's see. 1 second. I might have to pause the video. Oh, here we go. This one. It's Letters from Eden, A Year at Home in the Woods by Julie Zickfus. And she illustrated this herself. And like she also, she wrote it as well, and so this book is so pretty. All like the pictures of the animals, and it tells like the story of her setting up her space in the world in Ohio as a, she has like I think 80 acres or something, and so just like the wildlife that's in her area, and she talks about raising her children and fixing up the land and the house, and it's such a pretty book. Okay, so let's see, what's the next question here? What books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I could say all of them, I feel like I want to do whenever I see this question, but I did pick a couple of books to talk about. So I have a Library of America book by Mark Twain, and I've read Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, which I feel like if you've read Mark Twain, like those are the two, like you would say. But I haven't read Life on the Mississippi, and the other one is Pudd'nhead Wilson. I know nothing about that one, but Life on the Mississippi is one I really, really want to read. That being said, I want to read all of my Library of America editions because I have maybe 10, and I've read bits and pieces of each of them, but not the full work. And so I need to get on that. And so yeah, Life on the Mississippi is on my list. And Books of the Century, 100 Years of Authors, Ideas, and Literature from the New York Times Book Review. And this is a chunky book, and it has like, I think it's going chronologically through the year, but there's some pictures there. I just flipped. I just saw a couple of them, but like different authors. There's a couple pictures of that, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't really follow the New York Times or anything like that, but I'm interested to see what's in here. Maybe because I saw on Instagram, maybe this came to mind because I saw on Instagram recently, talking about the 21st century and like the best book, like top 100 books, and so I did that little quiz to see. I think I read like 20 of the 100. I'm not a literary fiction person. I like genre fiction and nonfiction. Those are my two things I would say. I'm literary fiction. I'll read it here and there, but it's not something I'm like well versed in, or something I'll hear about it and like, oh, that sounds really good. I don't know. So for some reason, it misses its mark with me. So that being said, I hope there's not a ton of literary fiction in here, and if there is, then maybe it's like classics, because I really do like classics. And so yeah, I need to read this so I can report back, because I don't know until I read it. And then the other book I want to read is Of Men and Mountains by William O. Douglas. I have bought 3 books by William O. Douglas in the last like month or two, because I found this one and I found 2 others for like $1 each, so I just snapped them up. But I only knew about him through him being like a Supreme Justice, right? A Supreme Court Justice. But he wrote several like memoir, autobiography, like nonfiction, nature books, you know, about his life out in the woods. And so I'm like, oh, I have to pick these up. And so yeah, this is, especially since I bought 3 of his books. So yeah, I want to get to this one for sure. Okay, let's see. A favorite video or post you've done so far this year. And so I would say I'm most proud of my vlog videos, because they're the hardest for me to do, because there's that consistency of like if I'm vlogging for a weekend or a week or what have you, just constantly remembering to pick up the camera. So yeah, I'm most proud of those for sure. And yeah, just sharing, you know, my out and about, and just like feeling I have a friend in my pocket. You know, to share like little moments, and you know, the pretty flowers I'm looking at, or something cute Fable's doing, or you know, if a recipe I'm making or whatever, you know, I like that sharing aspect of it. And then favorite book community members, and no one in particular, but just all of you. I love the anyone who comments on any of my videos. Like, it's always such a joy to reply and chat with people in the comments field, and just like share the love of books. And then just like, yeah, for me, like watching people's videos and me commenting, I love the whole booktube community. There's nothing in, I can never just pick 1 or 2 members of the book community. Just all of booktube. I'm so happy to be on this platform and to be part of this community. So anyway, that is the mid-year book check-in tag. And check this off this year for doing it, because like I mentioned, I haven't been consistent with doing that throughout the years. But yeah, it's something to look back on, I feel like, for sure. So anyway, I'm not going to tag anyone, because again, I feel like I'm late doing this tag. But if you haven't done this tag, please feel free to do it. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.